Our ultra running community is relatively small, and we see different faces again and again across different races. One of the people I was very fortunate to meet was David Parrish. David was just 35 years old. He was a former Royal Marine and arguably over the last couple of years had become one of the most talented ultra runners in the UK. He used running as a way to decompress from the harsh demands of military life and only actually started racing seriously a few years ago. After leaving the Marine Corps, he threw himself into running, starting of course with parkrun, but then moving on to run for his club, Dumfries Running Club, where he became champion of the club in 2022. Not only that, he went on to win the Cape Wrath Ultra in 2023, and then in 2025 won one of the hardest races in the UK, the Dragon's Back. Amazing after only being a competitive runner for a few years. I met David in 2023 when he was running the Cape Wrath Ultra and I was volunteering. I was immediately struck by how friendly and nice he was, but also that he was a little reserved and genuinely surprised at how well he was doing leading the Cape Wrath race. We met again a year later when roles were reversed. I was running the Cape Wrath race and David, as is his way, was volunteering, putting something back into the sport that he loved.
The first excitement of the day has just happened. Over there is David Parrish, last year's winner of the Cape Wrath Ultra.
David loved the Cape Wrath trail and he knew it pretty well, having not only run it and won the race but walked the entire route as well. So for his next adventure, he wanted to try an FKT attempt on the Cape Wrath Trail. FKT, for those who don't know, is fastest known time. That means he'd be running hard, working hard, trying to run as fast as he could through those difficult mountain trails. But the run wasn't just about breaking a record, it was also raising money for Scottish Mountain Rescue, in memory of his close friend and fellow Royal Marine Luke Ireland, who was just 20 in 2014 when he died running in the mountains of Angus in Scotland. So David knew more than most what the mountains can take from you, how dangerous they are, and how risky a run like this could be. Running the official Cape Wrath race organised by the now defunct Ure Events, you were constantly looked after by teams of medical staff, race officials, volunteers and of course other runners on the trail at the same time as you. David's FKT would be a solo attempt. He was on his own. Tragically, late on Saturday evening gone, David was found in Kintail in the Northwest Highlands in a remote section of the mountains. I don't know how David died, whether he fell pushing hard through the mountains for that FKT, he may have just misjudged some rocks in front of him, or whether he got injured and couldn't move very fast and maybe succumbed to the cold up there. Or maybe it was something else, we may never know. But it does make me think and remember other people that we've lost in the mountains. I remember running TDS 5 years ago when we were stopped mid-race because a very experienced runner up ahead had fallen and tragically lost his life. I remember Ed Catmore, a very experienced and well-known runner down here in the south, running in the winter in the mountains up near the Pennine Way and not coming back. And now David. These are not strangers to us, these are people in our community. These are runners who chase the same feelings that we chase. They want that sense of adventure. They loved the mountains, they loved running. These are guys who stood on the same start lines as us.
This is David.
Here's David's gloves.
Here's David's gloves. There's David's waterproof trousers, waterproof top. David is clear to go and run 16 miles today. Pleased with yourself? Pleased with your efforts?
I am, yeah. I am. Put myself under pressure at the start by going out fast, and now I've been condemned to try and give it beans every day. But I'm glad.
You're good with that.
Yeah.
You haven't. It's great. You haven't suffered any major injuries.
Yeah, no major ones.
Oh no.
Just the niggles.
Yeah.
The niggles we've all suffered.
Oh, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The mountains don't care how many ultras you've run. They don't care how experienced you are, how many mountains you've climbed. We know these races can be dangerous, but it sometimes takes things like this to make us stop and think again that when we do go out and take on these races, we are taking risks. I said in a recent video that if you're not happy with race companies charging so much or behaving unethically, then you can always just go out and do your own run. But of course, there is something to be said for running in an organised race, having those marshals, the tracker on your backpack, people there to look after you if something goes wrong. But if you're doing an FKT like David, or even just out in the mountains training by yourself, there's none of that. It is just you and the mountains. When I do big mountain races, or when I'm out training on the hills on my own, I regularly have to tell myself to slow down. Watch your footing. Don't look at the scenery on tricky sections. Stay focused. Move carefully rather than risk a fall chasing a faster time. But then I'm not an elite athlete out to win a race or break a record. And that's the thing that always amazes me about the top guys, how quickly they move over incredibly technical terrain. I find it genuinely incredible that they don't fall and hurt themselves more often. But of course, many do, and that's the risk they accept to compete at that high level. I think the takeaway from this, if there is one, is that we can't take any of this for granted. The fact that we get up in the morning, the fact that we can lace up our running shoes and go for a run, the fact that we come home afterwards, the fact that we can stand on a start line and most likely know that we'll get to the finish, none of that is guaranteed. It never was, it never will be. David Parrish embodied everything that's good about our sport. Tough, generous, joyful, and absolutely relentless. The kind of guy who wins a 370-kilometre multi-stage run and then comes back the next year to volunteer.
I'd rather go out in a blaze of glory than finish and think, I could have done better.
If you're heading into the mountains, look after each other, look after yourself, and maybe spare a thought for David, for his family, for those he ran with at Dumfries Running Club, and for all those he served with in the Marines. Rest easy, David.